Hello students and welcome to today's explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to guide you through a super important chapter in your CBSE Class 10 science syllabus, nutrition. You know, every single thing you do, whether you're studying hard for your board exams or literally just breathing, requires fuel. And today we're going to master exactly how that fuel powers the whole shebang of life. Let's get right into it.
All right, here's our quick roadmap for today's class. 1. Fueling life. 2. Nutrient types. 3. Autotrophs. 4. Heterotrophs. 5. The amoeba process. And 6. A quick summary.
By the time we're done today, here is exactly what you'll have mastered for your exams. First, you're going to understand the absolute basics of nutrition. Second, you'll be able to clearly differentiate between autotrophic and heterotrophic modes. And third, you'll absolutely nail the concept of holozoic nutrition, specifically focusing on how our little friend the amoeba does it.
Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1. Fueling Life, Nutrition Basics.
So before we look at complex organisms, we've got to define what we're actually talking about here. Scientifically speaking, nutrition is the process of obtaining and utilizing food materials that provide energy and essential nutrients to organisms. Now notice those two keywords, obtaining and utilizing. It's not just about eating a snack. It's about how your body actually uses those materials to power all of its life processes. From basic physical growth to keeping your complex daily body functions running smoothly, this process is literally the engine of life.
So why do living things actually need nutrition? Well, it really boils down to three main reasons. First up, maintaining body functions. Your body needs a continuous supply of energy just to keep everything running in order. Second, growth and development. This fuels your physical growth and all those developmental changes you go through. And third, building essential molecules. Your body is constantly acting like a little factory, creating proteins and other vital molecules for cellular processes, and it absolutely needs raw materials to pull that off. Make sense? Awesome. Let's move on.
Moving right along to Section 2, Nutrient Types, Macro and Micro.
All right, let's look at the specific building blocks of life that make up our food. To make this super easy to remember for your exams, I've got two handy little mnemonics for you. Look over at the macronutrients. These are the ones we need in large amounts. Just remember FCP, fats, carbohydrates, proteins. Say it with me in your head, FCP. Got it? Okay. Now for the micronutrients. These are completely essential, but we only need them in really small quantities. Your trick here is VMI, vitamins and minerals. So FCP for the big ones and VMI for the small ones. Easy, right?
Okay. Section 3. Autotrophs, self-sufficient producers.
Now that we know what nutrients actually are, let's see how different organisms get their hands on them, or, well, make them. Autotrophs are organisms that literally make their own food. They do this by taking super simple inorganic sources, specifically carbon dioxide and water, and turning them into food. The most famous way they do this is through photosynthesis, grabbing sunlight and using chlorophyll. When you hear autotroph, I want you to immediately think of green plants and certain types of bacteria. They don't hunt, they just produce.
And this brilliantly illustrates the math of life. You want to pay close attention here because this balanced chemical equation for photosynthesis carries vital marks in your exams. We've got 6 molecules of carbon dioxide combining with 6 molecules of water. Driven by sunlight and chlorophyll, they react to produce one single molecule of glucose, that's the C6H12O6 right there, plus 6 molecules of oxygen, which gets released as a byproduct. Honestly, this one little equation is the absolute foundation of almost all food chains on Earth. It's a real game changer.
All right, on to Section 4, heterotrophs, dependent consumers.
Now, what's really interesting about this next bit is how dependent organisms actually survive. They can't make their own food, so they rely on complex organic substances and break them down using enzymes. We can group these dependent heterotrophs into 3 distinct categories. First, we have decomposers. These guys break down dead organisms outside their bodies and then absorb the nutrients. Think of fungi, like that bread mold you might occasionally spot in the kitchen. Second, we've got ingesters. These take in whole food and break it down internally. Animals, including us humans, fall right into this category. And finally, parasites. They sneakily get their nutrients directly from living organisms without immediately killing them, like a tapeworm. Yikes, right?
But even within those categories, the specific nutritional strategy an organism uses can vary wildly. It really depends on 3 key things. Number 1, the food source type. Is the food stationary, like a plant, or is it mobile, like a deer? Number 2, the food acquisition method. Basically, how does the organism actually catch or reach its meal? And number 3, the complexity of its digestive system.
A highly complex animal is obviously going to process food very differently than a simpler one.
Which brings us to a super fascinating question. If complexity dictates the strategy, how on earth does a single-celled organism eat when it doesn't even have a mouth, a stomach, or a digestive tract?
Let's find out in Section 5, Amoeba Holozoic Nutrition Process.
To answer that question, we're going to look at one of my absolute favorite microscopic examples in biology, the amoeba. It's a unicellular organism that uses a very specific type of nutrition. The crucial point here for your conceptual clarity is understanding the holozoic mode of nutrition. This is a strategy where digestion happens strictly inside the body after the organism has taken in whole food particles. So even though the amoeba is literally just one single cell, it physically takes the food inside itself before breaking it down with enzymes.
Now, this holozoic process happens in 5 distinct chronological steps, and students, you absolutely must know this exact sequence perfectly for your exams. Step 1 is ingestion, simply taking the food in. Step 2 is digestion, breaking that complex food down into simple molecules. Step 3 is absorption, soaking up those digested molecules. Step 4 is assimilation, actually utilizing that food for energy, growth, and repair. And finally, step 5 is egestion, getting rid of the undigested waste from the body.
Let's look at exactly how the little amoeba pulls off those 5 steps. First, its cell membrane stretches out to form these finger-like projections called pseudopodia. These pseudopodia reach out and completely surround the food particle, basically hugging it until it forms a food vacuole inside the cell, along with a little drop of water. Once it's trapped in there, digestive enzymes are secreted directly into the vacuole to break the food down. Those simple nutrients are then absorbed right into the cytoplasm. Finally, the vacuole drifts over to the cell membrane, ruptures, and just expels the undigested waste. It's a highly efficient, microscopic digestive system, all happening inside a single cell.
All right, let's wrap this up. Section 6, Chapter Summary and Takeaways.
We have covered a ton of crucial ground today, going all the way from the macro level down to the microscopic. Let's quickly lock in those exam-ready takeaways. First, nutrition is the essential process of obtaining and utilizing food for energy and growth. Remember our 2 main types? Autotrophs make their own food, while heterotrophs depend on others. Don't forget your mnemonics for nutrients: FCP for fats, carbs, and proteins, and VIMI for vitamins and minerals. And lastly, memorize that 5-step holozoic process in the amoeba: ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation, and egestion. Make sure you revise these thoroughly.
Before we finish, I want to leave you with this one thought. If nutrition fuels absolutely all life, how does that complex, delicious meal sitting on your dinner plate eventually get broken down to power your very own human cells using the exact same 5 steps as that simple little amoeba? Think about that, because that is exactly what we're going to uncover in our next explainer on the human digestive system. Keep studying, stay curious, and I'll see you all in the next class.